Hola, Minasan! Welcome back for another round of Battletech Mech Warrior Research. This is a viewer recommended channel from Javier Patag 3609. I hope I got you pronounced your name correctly. We are going into first time channel Sarna Battletech Wiki that covers bad mechs. This video is Bad Mechs Raider. Be sure to check the Sarna Battletech Wiki, links down in the description below. Yeah, I had found myself coming across a couple of bad mechs and got a nice recommendation for some really bad mechs, and we're gonna see just how bad some of these mechs are. This particular mech in particular, the Raider, from Battletech. So yeah, get your notes together for my post research thoughts. This is called action. Comment, like, subscribe, follow, hit the notification button, and let us begin the research. Sarna, get shot.
The raid was going well if the unit's radio chatter was anything to go by. Jensen tuned most of it out. It was hard to hear it over the sound of his dual saw chewing merrily through a tree. There wasn't much else to shoot at in his sector, so Jensen fell back on old habits and decided the best way to intimidate the locals was to deforest the general area. Jensen wasn't really a battle mech pilot, but it was hard to hire seasoned mech warriors on the salaries Bansen Universal Unlimited was offering. He used to pilot a forestry mech though, which meant that Jensen had first-hand experience with half of his raiders' armament.
Oh, okay.
That was enough to get him the gig. But it did mean he lacked a certain killer instinct. Except when it came to trees. If you needed someone to take a pine out by the roots, Jensen was your man. Only, there was very little call for an arborist during a semi-piratical raid.
Jensen, get your ass over here. We need fire support.
Jensen sighed. He was just about to finish with that ash tree too. Perhaps the raid wasn't going as well as Jensen thought.
I didn't realize this was going to be a story. I thought this was going to be a documentary explaining all the ins and outs of the Raider. I'm liking this already. Dang, maybe I should have. I thought the way it was the way it was explained in the comments, I was expecting like a commentary, like a documentary style, but with motion movement. You know, like I've seen some of those. Who was that? Was it SciTech? You know, like they always show scenes of the animation. I thought that maybe that we were going to see. I was going to see some examples of how they operated and what made them very bad. I didn't expect it to be an audiobook. This is cool.
By the time he arrived at his Lance Commander's location, one raider was already down, its internal combustion engine exposed and leaking oil like blood from a fatal wound.
Damn.
The other members of Jensen's Lance were both tanks, a D1 Schmidt and a J. Edgar. Opposing them were a pair of JES-1 missile carriers and two Pegasus hover tanks, their missile racks still off-gassing exhaust from the apparent ambush that took out the other raider. The D1 brought respectable firepower to Bansen's raiders, but it wasn't armored enough to stand up to the wall of missiles the Shiloh militia's hover tanks could launch with every volley.
Ooh.
It was rapidly reversing course and firing away with its rotary autocannons while the J. Edgar sped up for a fast retreat. For a moment, Jensen just stood and watched as the D1's autocannons finally chewed away enough armor from a JES-1 to rip through its skirt, sending the hovercraft's nose into the dirt just as it was launching its second volley. The explosions were enough to detonate the missiles that were still waiting to be launched, causing the entire tank to erupt in a brilliant orange fireball.
Wow.
Goodbye, tank. It was an
tank.
awesome sight.
Yeah.
But one that Jensen couldn't appreciate for long. The remaining tanks volleyed missiles into D1, ripping off armor and deflating two tires, slowing its retreat to a crawl.
Jensen, what are you doing? Stop gawking and fire already!
Man, he's trying to prune the trees, lady. Let the man prune his trees. He's an arborist. Okay? Do you mind?
Right. He had his own missile racks to fire, although he could count the number of times he'd pulled the trigger on one hand. Jensen preferred to engage with his dual saw, not only because of his arboreal history, but because the Raiders' fire control, the Banson-designed AccuTrack 3000, was little more than a floating crosshair on his HUD.
Oh.
Lining the crosshair up with the undamaged JES-1, Jensen pulled the trigger and a swarm of 20 medium-range missiles erupted from his shoulder. Although visually impressive, only 4 warheads actually struck their target. It was enough to get the militia's attention, however.
Oh no.
The battle mech, even one with exhaust pipes and piloted by a former arborist, commanded respect, which was why the next volley was aimed directly at Jensen's mech.
Damn.
As far as former logger mech pilots go, Jensen was one of the best. Being able to rip a tree from the ground by its roots with the help of 50 tons, however, wasn't enough to stand up to the impact of 50 short-range missiles.
Oh
Each
god.
individual explosion was something the Raider could easily weather, but 50 was like getting hit by a train. Fire erupted across Jensen's view screen, and he immediately fell over backward.
Of
The
course.
impact cracked his neural helmet, shattering his view screen, and split the housing of his internal combustion engine, causing cylinders to misfire. The white smoke of rocket motors mixed with the black belch from the Raider's engine, consuming itself with each revolution before finally ceasing with a metal screech. As the Raider's cockpit went dark, Jensen idly wondered if perhaps he would have been better off harvesting trees.
Yes, he should have. Oh, it's over already?
The early 3100s were an unprecedented era of disarmament within the core of human space. The Republic of the Spear had created a political and legal environment that encouraged the major powers to reduce their overall fighting forces and to curtail new defense spending. Jacob Banson, president and CEO of Banson Universal Unlimited, saw this era of disarmament as a business opportunity to take assets by force rather than by free market.
Oh.
A better term for this strategy
Corporate
is
piracy.
piracy.
Mm-hmm.
Banson's plan was to create a private military under the guise of a mercenary company affiliated with his business, Banson Universal Unlimited. Banson insisted on his force including battle mechs, as they'd long been considered the pinnacle of military hardware. But Republic restrictions on such hardware prevented Banson from simply purchasing battle mechs on the open market. Instead, Banson floated the idea of creating an entirely new battle mech designed and built completely in-house. The project, codenamed Jacob's Ladder, began in
Really?
3132, with all researchers and engineers.
The man went biblical and called it Jacob's Ladder. How arrogant you gotta be to be able to do that.
Engineers working in total secrecy. The project was surprisingly successful. Within 2 years, the team had developed a 50-ton chassis, armor, communications, and targeting equipment for a battle mech that would have been considered state-of-the-art at the turn of the millennium. To arm the mech, Banson Universal acquired Hatchet Dower so they could use that company's MRM-10 launchers, and researchers had even developed a patent for a rotary autocannon. Unfortunately, Banson's researchers had difficulty cracking the secrets of miniaturized fusion that allowed battle mechs to operate for extended periods while discharging directed energy weapons. One such engine test resulted in the death of a lead scientist, causing the project team to abandon fusion power in 3133.
So long,
The
Fusion.
Raiders' power would instead be generated by something much, much older. Internal combustion.
No, they didn't go with gasoline, did they? How? I mean, I know they have so many planets and so many planets have resources, and many of them would have oil. But are they? Was Jansen insane? The size of that mech with oil? You know how much gas that takes? Oh my god, that's insane.
So simple and reliable, provided adequate fuel could be sourced. Internal combustion engines couldn't provide enough power for lasers or particle cannons, and also prevented the installation of jump jets, although Banson would later develop a jump pack that would give the Raider a limited jump capacity. Did, however, provide enough energy for the full articulation of Myomer bundles, a relatively large missile launcher, and a rather brutal weapon more often associated with the construction industry. Best of all, it made the Raider much cheaper than a true battle mech. The JL-1 Raider first rolled off assembly lines on Tybalt and St. Andre in 3134.
Who's crazy enough to buy this?
At 50 tons, the Raider was powered by a 200-rated internal combustion engine, had 2 single heat sinks, a pair of MRM-10 racks, and a dual saw replacing the left hand. The dual saw was a curious choice, given that mech-sized melee weapons were a known quantity and offered better damage with lower weight requirements. The MRM-10 is also strange as a primary weapon, given its notorious inaccuracy, made only worse by the Raider's first-generation targeting equipment. One point in favor of the Raider was its triple-strength Myomer, a technology that allowed the Raider to achieve speeds of 86 kilometers per hour, with the Raider's combustion engine being liquid-cooled, however. Its TSM system could only be activated with repeated weapons fire or deliberate deactivation of its 2 single heat sinks, a dangerous proposition for inexperienced pilots. 7 tons of standard armor was considered adequate, given the opponents the Raider was expected to face, and the fact Bansen couldn't legally source ferrofibrous armor. Initial deliveries of the Raider were given almost entirely to Bansen's Raiders, the appropriately named mercenary unit that would often be engaged in extra-legal acquisition following the collapse of the HPG network. With survivors unable to report raids until weeks or sometimes months after the fact, Bansen operated with near impunity and even began to sell raiders to cash-strapped mercenary units of questionable honor,
So he
some
sold
of
to
which
mercenaries.
may have had similar piratical tendencies. The Raider was best used in mass waves, overwhelming defender with sheer numbers, and closing to short range where it could most effectively use its missiles and dual saw.
Sending wave after wave of kill mechs until they all tired out, right? Zap Brannigan's Book of War, huh?
JL-2 Raider Mark II gave the mech a long-range option by swapping the MRM-10s with a rotary autocannon. Fitting the Rack 2 required downsizing the engine, giving the Mark II a top speed of 64 kilometers per hour with its TSM activated. 10 tons of standard armor at least allowed the Mark II to better endure return fire. Bansen hailed the Raider as a complete success, offering battle mech-sized firepower at a fraction of the cost of a real battle mech. But success as the leader of a pirate band required more than business savvy. The first Bansen's Raiders, also known as the Scourge, mutinied on Tybalt in 3136, capturing Jacob Bansen before handing him over to Republic authorities to be brought up on various arms violations.
Oh no. Sold them
Bansen's
out.
Raiders would then disband, although the Raider would continue to be built by former Republic factions, seeking to rapidly rearm during the Dark Age. In fact, multiple Raider variants would arise as local industries took advantage of Bansen's Universal's lack of leadership, all of which would do away with the cumbersome dual saw and inaccurate MRM-10s. Perhaps the best of them all was the JL-3B, which added power packs to enable the use of an all-energy weapon armament, including a light PPC, 2 medium lasers, 1 extended range small laser, and a standard small laser. Double heat sinks, improved cooling, and a retractable blade replaced the inefficient dual saw. The widespread and illegal construction of the patented design would continue unabated until Simcox Industrials acquired the rights after Bansen's Universal's dissolution in 3149.
Wow.
Wildly outclassed by nearly every medium battle mech produced since 3025, Simcox still sells the Raider to smaller planetary garrisons,
Alright.
down on their luck mercenaries, and paramilitary groups of dubious repute.
Actually, that's not bad. I mean, I get where he was coming from. You know, to sell cheap mechs and everything. It's not a great mech. If it was put in the Secession War, they would all been obliterated, no doubt, no doubt. But given the year that it's in, that era, it made sense to make cheap mechs and take advantage. You know, of course, selling to mercenaries and whatnot. I just found it funny that it went for the tried and true internal combustion. Now I understand why there's a gas tank, why there's a gasoline station there, and he couldn't reach for and the pirate is trying to reach in. But it makes absolute sense though, because if you sell it to mercenaries, to pirates, of course they're going to want to steal oil. You know what I'm saying? They'll have to steal oil, which is their job. I can't imagine a world where you have to use gasoline for that. I thought that was madness that he went with internal combustion, because not just only do you need the oil to move the mech around, but you're gonna need the gasoline. No doubt the gasoline is probably needed to power, unless it's air pressurized or something. I mean, it looks like it's air pressurized, the whole saw. I guess he thought saws look cool. Poor Jansen. He just wanted to cut trees. That's all. He must have been down in his luck. I gotta say though, very practical. Very practical with its weaponry, its armor. The saw impractical. I mean, I get it. It's supposed to be for close combat, but you're dealing with other armor, metal armor. You're not sawing wood or plastic or some other soft thing. You're going up against armor that state of the art armor. If you're doing piracy, there's no way that saw is going to rip through everything. You get what I'm saying? It's not going to do anything. And then using a weak targeting sight system with a floating reticle, that's insane. I don't know what Jansen was thinking. I mean, he wanted a quick buck. He wanted to take advantage of all that. He even bought out a whole entire company, Hatchet Domer. I think I'm mispronouncing that. Hatchet Domer. He acquired that company to get some extra parts. Of course, once he got sold off to Simtex, and he got arrested for selling arms illegally, selling the mechs illegally. They got rid of the saw and the targeting and putting some extra stuff in there, and went on to sell to again smaller mercenaries and pirates and small planets that were looking for some cheap mechs for like personal defense and defense and such, which makes sense. So does it suck? Yeah, it sucks. I mean, compared to some of the more state-of-the-art weaponry and everything, but it is a practical, cost-effective machine for those who are on a budget. It's still good for that. You just gotta, as was noted, you gotta be a very, very good pilot to be able to handle this contraption, to handle this mech. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do. Given that it's also run on combustion, and not only that, but as was exemplified with Jansen, he missed because it has a very, very terrible targeting system. Very, very terrible. But for pirates, I mean, small pirates, small mercenaries, I can see that. It makes a lot of sense. And that's the thing, make it make sense, as the saying goes on the internet. The machine did have some logical sense to it, in that it's being sold to pirates and mercenaries, small poor colonies and such. That makes a lot of sense story wise. It's not the best, but it's good enough to at least provide adequate defense for those planets. If you're a mercenary or a pirate, it's adequate enough for small skirmishes that they're looking for, or cannon fodder, something, some kind of misdirect and so on. It makes a lot of sense. That's pretty good. That's pretty good writing. Not everything has to suck royally that it just crumples apart. That's kind of dumb if you do that all the time. If you do it all the time in your writing, you gotta have something that that is effective but not spectacular, flawless or something. You know what I'm saying? It could still be the weakest among the weak. It could be an F tier or C tier, but it could still get its job done. As long as you write like that, people will appreciate the mech designs and other designs you do within your stories and your world builds. You don't wanna go to the extremes on both ends and having perfect things. Now I'll always go to Gundam, because Gundam has the tendency of having perfect machines, from both factions. There's no imperfection going on or put on display and so on. I think that's what I liked about Iron-Blooded Orphans, because they were always repairing those mechs. It wasn't like those mechs ran perfect and they were perfect and sleek. They were ugly looking, they were bulky, but they were effective, and they get wrecked, and those boys repair it. The team repairs it, so that way it can work, so they could keep it working. And, saying the logistics, keep it all nice and logical. So yeah, this was a great channel. I'll revisit this later down the line. Sarna Battletech Wiki, and so it's in the links are down in the description below. And big thanks to Javier Patag 3609 for recommending this channel. It was pretty fun. So it's a little bit of both. I got it's half documentary, half storytelling. The storytelling is great because it gave context to what will be the documentary part. I like that. That's actually pretty cool. That was pretty effective. So yeah, that's it, man. That was good. That was good. All right. So head on over to Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Grab yourself a copy of The Impossible Man, a strange fantasy novel written by me. You'll find links to the book down in the description below, along with links to other merchandise, pins, stickers, t-shirts, music. Enjoy the products. Thank you for your patronage. And if you have a copy of The Impossible Man and did a YouTube lore video on it, thank you very much. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Also, available here on this channel is the first 5 chapters of my audiobook, Trucker's Adventure, Trucker no Bouken. Now currently posted up on my SYOSETSU Minato page. You'll find links to the light novel series down in the description below, or head on over to the playlist if you want to listen. Currently in the English language version. Japanese language version will be coming soon. And finally, if you want, you can join me on my live multi-stream on Twitch and Kick, where I do lore research, Japanese cultural studies, gaming, and more. Look forward to hanging out with you. So until the next round of Battletech Mech Warrior Research, thank you all for joining me, and I wish you all a good night. Buenas noches, and oyasu minasai.